Thank you so much, and thanks for joining us this evening. This is the Aspen City Council work session for April 24th, 2023. Tonight on our agenda, we have 2 items, interviews for boards and commissions, and then we'll get an update from Kids First, and we'll go ahead and get started with our first portion here in just 1 second. Hey, Bon, before you go too far away, let's see here. Why can't I get, I want this, and I'm getting that. Oh, no, that's not what I wanted. Let's see. Bond, thanks a lot, but I was trying to pull up the Dropbox web of my packet. I don't need that one. I need, this is not going past that. Maybe, but maybe not.
Not sure why it's not working on this one.
Let's see. No. Let's see. Got it?
Does someone else have access to it?
I'll go from here. I'll just go from there. Thanks. Sorry, guys. All right, so we'll start off with our boards and commissions interviews, and the first one that I have, and I apologize if any of mine is out of order, but the Pickens County Animal Shelter Board. We have a couple of applicants. Cynthia, are you here? Come on up. Allison, if you don't mind, come on up. If you just look at the base of those microphones, make sure that they are green and not red. We also have Diane. Come on up. So just push the little gray button, turn that to green. And then Adam, I don't believe, let me see if we have him even remote. I don't see him right now. So this is for the Aspen Pickens Animal Shelter Board. We have 2 regular member openings and 1 alternate member opening. And we have current members. Adam Goldsmith is reapplying. Kate, I'm wondering here, we have expiration dates on Adam and Madeline. Madeline did not reapply.
It
Is
appears
my understanding?
So.
Okay.
Appears so, yes.
All right, thank you.
We have two regular members and 1 alternate member to fill.
Thank you guys for being here so much. As I always say, our volunteer boards and commissions are so important to Aspen and how we function. So thank you for even being interested in applying. The first question I have for all three of you, and just to take care of this, is do you know, have you seen the roles and responsibilities, meeting dates, and the like for the animal board?
No, I've not.
Okay.
We've asked around. No one's
Okay.
told us anything.
Let's see if I can pull it up for you, if they have set meeting times for you. Fourth Thursday quarterly. So, and it doesn't have a time for you. So it'll pretty much be up to you when you want to meet, is what it sounds like. Anyway, I'm going to turn it over to other members of council and see if they have any questions for each of you. I'll start down here. Bill, do you?
Thanks. I think I'd ask all of you the same question, which is, what do you think the animal shelter does well, and what do you think you could help improve upon? And thank you so much for applying and for being willing to serve.
So we're actually really good friends, so
I know.
the three of us
We're all
are
neighbors.
Yeah, we all live basically together.
Why don't we start at, we'll start at this end and we'll go across
Yeah.
to start, and then we'll come back.
And this was unplanned too, that we all volunteer for
Right.
the same board. just so you know.
I love the animal shelter. I have adopted my dog from the shelter. I know Seth very well. I love that they bring puppies in from reservations and find them all homes. And there is a very large success rate in adoption. So I love that they do that, and I would love to give my time and give back because my dog has brought me a lot of joy in this town as well.
Glad to hear it. What do you think they can do better?
I don't know. I would have to sit down and ask Seth what he would like to do and what he would like to accomplish and see. I don't think there's a problem. So if there are, I would love to contribute and help.
Thanks.
I think that they offer the community a great service. Just to have a place that is not a kennel where a dog just goes into a run by themselves all day and is able to go and play with other dogs and be entertained while their parent is at work or at play. And I think it's a great service for the dog parents as well, because it is a challenge sometimes to work full-time or play full-time, whatever you do, and either have to give your dog to a dog walker and be unsure of the safety of the dog. So I just think that they offer a great service to the community and to the animals. What I think they can do better, I think that the cat portion could probably be expanded a little bit more. And I think a little bit of separation between size of animals might be nice, and if they had a little bit more of a divided area, so you could have certain sizes of animals play together in smaller groups instead of a larger pack, might be helpful. But I think Cynthia's right, like hearing from Seth would be really good too, to hear what he thinks that they could do better. Whether, I don't know if they need labor or whatever that is, but it's a great service in the community.
Hey, I actually really love their business model. I think it's so neat that when you adopt a dog from there, you bring it back to kennel there, to groom there, and then that pays for the dogs who need homes there. So I love that they do that. I think that's so neat. I was there today just checking it out again one more time, because in the past I've donated towels and sheets, and I was trying to figure out how else I can participate besides just being a part of the volunteer board. And I don't know that this is possible, but I called a few weeks ago to say, can I come and run with the dogs? And so I wish there was another sort of volunteer activity that, I don't know if they can do it, liability-wise, but I think it would be fun if we could, run the dogs as motivation to exercise. But yeah, awesome business model that they have.
I think they do the borrow a dog kind of program, or at least
Yeah.
they used to.
I was hoping they could, so I am very unmotivated when it comes to exercise. Tori can speak to that. And so I called them and I was like, can I just take like a good 5 miles? But they couldn't leave them yet, so.
Great. Will you remind us of your first names?
Cynthia.
Diane?
Allison,
Allison, thank you so much.
yeah.
Thanks, Bill. Ward, can I go to you?
Thank you all for applying. Did you say you planned this together? You know
No,
each
we,
other?
We did not plan it.
no, and we probably hang out once a week together, so it was a fun surprise for all of us.
That's cool. I oftentimes have said the trinity of Aspen is parking spaces, trees, and dogs. And that's witnessed by having 3 openings and 4 applications for the animal shelter. I think that's great. Diane, you're a big cheese expert, it looks like.
Yeah,
Let's talk.
Yeah.
fanatic.
And Allison, is your dog a bulldog, a Hoya?
No, I know, I have spent many times with Jack the Bulldog, but no.
I'm just thankful for all 3 of you, and also for Adam and his service and his willingness to reapply. And I don't have any specific questions, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ward. Sam, any questions?
Just a comment of the spay-neuter program, I think, is one of the best things the Friends of Aspen Animal Shelter does. That is a very costly thing, and it's very helpful, and just thank you all for applying.
Thanks, Sam. John, any follow-ups?
No, I just want to say I'm a huge fan of the animal shelter as well. My daughter's dog was adopted from there, from a reservation in New Mexico. Thank you all for applying, and I think you're in luck.
I don't think there's any other questions for you guys. Thank you so much for taking your time to come down here. We will notify you by a letter, email, phone call, carrier pigeon, sled dog maybe in this case, but thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Council members, I would like to reach out to Adam and find out his interest in serving and
Agreed.
I was just gonna ask whether he was online or not.
no, he was not.
What was the question, Bill?
If
Whether
was
he's
there.
online on Zoom or something.
Thank you, guys. All right, let's see. The next one we are coming up on, I have, well, just for sake of process, I have Board of Adjustment. As you see in your packet, council members, you've got Tim Sack, who is reapplying, but he could not be in attendance today. I do know that he is interested in serving again, and he is the current alternate.
This is not a meeting for discussion, right? We're just doing the interviews today, and we'll discuss it at a later time.
Correct. Unless there's anything that you want to, you're more than welcome, anything that you want to talk about.
Yeah, I've met with Tim a couple times. I think he's phenomenal, so I think we're lucky to have him serve. That would be my only comment.
Okay. The next one up, I have Commercial Core and Lodging Commission, and we have a couple of applicants. Naomi, is Naomi here? Come on up. And Stephanie Davis, but she might be running a little late is what it says here.
No, I'm on the Zoom.
You're on the, oh, yeah, I got you.
Sorry, I just flew in. I was in touch with
Not a
Mike
problem.
by email. I
You're-
was worried I couldn't get in because I was just returning to Aspen today.
You're great. Thank you for letting me know you're there. So this is Commercial Core and Lodging Commission. We have got 2 alternate member openings and 2 applicants here. So the first thing I'll ask is, are you aware of the meeting dates and
I am not.
roles and responsibilities?
I am aware of the meeting dates, if they're accurate on the website, the first and third Wednesday of the month at 8:30.
Yeah, correct. Currently, they are twice a month. Has been some talk about perhaps going down to once a month in some months. They do a lot of prep for the summer months, so the winter, maybe there's an opportunity for a little less meeting date, but as of right now, it's two Wednesdays throughout.
That should work.
Okay. I will go ahead and once again open it up to other council members for Commercial Core and Lodging. Stephanie is online, and Naomi's with us here. I'll start with John.
I guess my only question is, I noticed you live in Basalt. What is your interest in being part of Aspen's Commercial Core and Lodging Commission?
I work at the Limelight Hotel here in Aspen, and so that's the involvement. I care a lot about, tourism and clearly, our hotels here, and I feel like I could really connect, City of Aspen and the hotels just because of my experience there. I worked for the Little Nell for 10 years, and then I've been with Limelight for 2. And I think it's an opportunity to really to make our connection with our tourists, but also, just within city of Aspen and the hotels, to make that connection a little bit stronger and to really work together, because it really shouldn't be working against each other, right?
Thanks, great answer.
Sam?
No questions. Thank you both for applying.
Ward?
Thank you both for applying. Naomi, hungry, what got you here to the States?
Love.
Well, since Terry Butler sold her business, there is not a representative from the lodging, and one of those L's is lodging, so it's important that somebody shows up for that. So I appreciate it. Your long history with Broadmoor and Limelight and et cetera, I think it's a good fit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm excited.
Stephanie, I have a question for you. You list a mailing address. Is the Prospector Road number, is that your business address? I don't know what to be looking at. But
Yeah, that's our office. That's where we get all of our mail.
Okay.
So that's why I listed it as our mailing address.
Yeah, I know that there's some, the reason I asked on that is I know that there's some APSHA units up in that area, a lot of APSHA units up in that area, and I just wanted to make sure that you didn't have an APSHA unit and living in,
Nope, that's our
Northway.
office. Those Eastwood Development owns the ground floor there. They're executive offices, so that's where I get my mail.
Yeah, I looked it up on Google Maps and it looked like it was in that business mall area.
Yep.
Have you been to a CCLC meeting?
I have not.
Okay,
I have not been to a meeting, but kind of my general interest, if you look at the definition on the website, says that it's to promote vitality and success of Aspen's downtown core for business owners, locals, and visitors, to act as a liaison between city council, city staff, business owners, and managers. And I fancy myself a strong communicator, and I definitely think that there's a disconnect between the city and the business owners downtown that I would love to bridge. I think in the last year, between the Living Lab and the development of Aspen Deserves Better and organizations, I'm also very active in the Rotary Club of Aspen. We hear from a lot of local businesses, and both as members and speakers, and it's clear that there are some communication issues and perhaps ways that the city and the businesses in town might be able to work more effectively together to benefit the locals and tourists.
and you're involved, first of all, you moved to Aspen, where, 2018 or somewhere around there?
I've been in Aspen full-time for about 3 years ago.
3 years? And do you have downtown commercial developments that you're working on now in Aspen?
No, I do work in real estate development, but my projects are not in Aspen.
Okay. And you'd have no problem making 8:30 meetings twice a month?
No problem.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you both for applying.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ward.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
We're not done yet. Bill, did you have any follow-up?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for applying. I used to be on the CCLC and I chaired it once upon a time, so quite familiar with it and appreciate you applying and giving your time to it. Stephanie, the only question I would have is, typically, people on the CCLC have a business of some sort in the commercial core, and I'm not sure I'm seeing that with you. Are we missing something on the resume, or is there anything you can help us understand where you are have a business established in the commercial core of Aspen?
I do not have a business established in the commercial core.
Okay. I think you'd be great on this board. That'd be the only,
Yeah, I have a strong interest, and like I said, I'm very active in the community, commercially, philanthropically, and otherwise, and I just have a vested interest in the success of what's going on downtown, and that sparked my interest in applying for this, but I do not operate a business in the core.
Got it, thanks. And, one of the things I would hope to accomplish in my time on council is expanding some of the roles of the CCLC and certainly interacting with them more frequently than at least happened when I was on that board. I would love to see that happen. Tori, I don't know if you can answer this now or if this is for further discussion, but as Ward alluded to, Terry recently sold her hotel, and Bill Dinsmore sold Main Street Bakery. As far as I know, that was his only business in Aspen. So I'm wondering if they still should be on the CCLC or not. I like them both a lot, and they contributed a lot over the years to that board. But I think it's critical that we have current business owners on the board. So I think we should look into that.
Okay.
I would just add that the bylaws don't require ownership. So certainly that can be a factor you could take into consideration, but it's not a requirement to qualify to serve on the board.
Thanks, Kate.
And Terry's term shows it's up in July, and I don't know if she's reapplying.
That's right.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, I did have, escaped my, top of my mind. One thing CCLC does a lot of time with is the Saturday market. They really manage a Saturday market. They review all of the applications, and is that something that both of you feel comfortable jumping into?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't have any other questions. You said that you hadn't attended a CCLC meeting previous, and Stephanie, you either?
No, I have not, but I'd be happy to.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Stephanie, nice to meet you over the phone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the Zoom. Sorry, I just flew back. I just landed, so I
Not a
didn't think I
problem.
could make it, so I appreciate the Zoom.
Thank you. The Grant Steering Committee is the next one that I have on my agenda, and we have Chris here, who is applying for Grant Steering Committee. Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Great. How are y'all doing?
Good.
Good seeing you again.
Thanks. Likewise.
I am seeing, Kate, in our composition, term, qualifications, steering committee shall be constituted of 5 regular members.
That's
We currently have 2.
correct. I would note that this ordinance just passed this year, so that was a recent change. I think you've increased, I think this ordinance was passed to sort of further memorialize what that board would look like in its role. And so that might explain why there was only 2 prior members. I do think there's some more openings available that may not be indicated on this, on the memo concerning the Grant Steering Committee.
It could be 3 regular members.
Correct.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
But as I said, this just passed, I think it looks like at the end of January, and so it became effective in March of, end of February, beginning of March of this year. So
Baby steps.
not everybody might have been updated on that requirement.
And Chris, as I always start off, are you aware of the roles and responsibilities? There's actually not set meetings like this because of how they meet and the business that they take care of, but,
Sure. Yeah, I've been in touch with John Barker, who I believe is administering the board. What I understand from him is that this board works with grant staff to help set policy for grant programs and oversees and approves funding recommendations provided by volunteer review committees. John has it estimated at an hour per month during slower times of year and 90 minutes per month during busier times of year. So that's my understanding of both role and commitment.
thanks. I'll open it up to anybody else that has any questions. I'll start with Sam.
Thanks for applying. I got no questions.
Ward.
Hi, Chris. Are you familiar with the revamping of what the whole grant process went through in the last couple of years?
I'm not,
Okay.
but I would look forward to learning about it.
Yeah, John and can certainly brief you in on that, and Ann is an infinite source of knowledge, so thank you for applying.
Thanks. John?
I guess my only question is, with your climate background, why this board?
That's a great question. So I think, since I work on climate all the time, but am very interested in, kind of the full suite of philanthropic and community-based activities, this is really just a great opportunity for me to, both learn more about and engage with some of the other great work that's happening in the community. So really that's why, I prefer to support programs in all of the different areas than kind of only be focused on climate.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
8
Chris.
hours a day of climate is plenty. But all of the other things are so important too, and, are what ultimately make up our amazing community.
Some a little more upbeat than the constant, yeah.
Yeah.
Bill, any questions from you?
Sure. Thanks, Chris. Nice to see you. Thanks for applying. Are there any grants that you're aware of that might be available to the city that you'd be interested in pursuing?
Yeah, I do.
Or guiding the staff to pursue, I should say?
Interesting. So do you mean that the city itself could leverage for its own programs, or that the city would consider responding to?
Well, perhaps I'm not, perhaps I'm mistaken. I don't know if this is for outgoing grants or for incoming grants or for both.
Right. My understanding is that it's for outgoing.
Outgoing, oh,
Is that correct?
Then
Yes.
scratch my question.
Okay. Sounds good.
But thank you for applying.
Yeah, absolutely. On question one, if that was a thing, sure. 'Cause there's a lot of stuff kind of in the IRA that could be of interest, but also, some robust activity with some of the partners like CoA, et cetera, that are looking at that.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Nice to see you
Have a good
again.
evening. Yes, likewise. See ya.
See ya. Page 95.
I don't have it, but I do have. Next board that we'll go to is Kids First Advisory Board. We have 2 applicants, 1 alternate member position open. We have Sarah Lowe and Sally Goulet.
Hi, I'm on Zoom.
Hi, Sally.
Hi.
Thanks so much for
having
joining
me.
us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see, have you familiarized yourself with Kids First, when they meet, what their roles and responsibilities are?
I believe they're meeting the first Wednesday of the month at 11:15. And then roles and responsibilities, I haven't really gotten a clear picture of that.
Have you ever attended a Kids First meeting or seen any of our work sessions with Kids First boards?
I have not attended a meeting. I actually had Shirley reach out to me last year, and Megan Monahan came to my home and did like an assessment because I was considering doing an at-home childcare. And I was really impressed by the whole organization because I just didn't even know it existed. And there are so many amazing resources available to us that Megan made me aware of. And I just thought it was such an amazing community resource. I wanted to spread the word.
Thank you. I'll go to other council members and see if anybody has any questions. I'll start with John if I can.
No questions, just pretty impressed with your resume. Virgin Islands sounds very interesting.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
No, I appreciate your background in teaching, and I think you'd be a good fit for this board.
Thank you.
Sam?
No questions. Thank you, Sally, for applying.
Do we have Sally on or just Sarah?
We have Sally,
Sally, I'm sorry.
and we're missing Sarah. She may have been running late, which I guess she is, but, Ward, any questions of Sally?
Yeah. Hi, Sally. Nice to see you.
Hi, Ward. I can see you.
Yeah, so go Avs, you can see that too. What experience do you have with early childhood education?
Oh, I don't have experience with early childhood education. There's nothing listed on my resume for that. But when Megan and Shirley reached out to me, so I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I stay home with them. I was considering doing a little childcare in my home. And that's when they reached out to me. So my only background is just personal, but I do enjoy it very much.
And I was trying to figure out when you moved to Aspen. You have Florida roots?
We moved to Aspen in 2018, but then we also lived here. Well, sorry, we live in Snowmass, but we also lived here in 2011, 12, 13, and then moved away and came back. It's hard to leave.
Great, thank you for your willingness to serve.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Any others?
Do you have any communication for Sarah still?
No, she gave us a heads up, though, that she could be late, so obviously she had some other prior commitment that didn't finish until now, so we will check back in with her. Any others?
Yes, please.
Go right ahead.
Thanks, Sally. Do either of your kids attend any preschool that is under the purview of Kids First?
They do not.
Do not. Are you considering any preschools for the summer or fall or anything that might be?
Recently my 3-year-old has started talking about school a lot, so I am considering reaching out, but unsure.
Okay. And are you familiar with City Council's directive to expand childcare opportunities in Aspen?
No, that seems like a pretty standard assumption that there's a huge need for childcare here. But I don't know any, I haven't read any directives that have been laid out.
Okay. And are you familiar with what happened at the Yellow Brick over the last year and a half with some transitioning programs in and out of there?
I am familiar on a very basic level of what happened, yeah.
Okay, great. That's all my questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Thanks for making the time to talk with us this evening, and we'll let you know very
absolutely.
soon.
Thank you, bye.
Bye, have a good evening.
You too.
Our next board is Next Gen Advisory Board. We have one regular opening and one alternate member opening, and our applicant is Bailey Everhart, who could not make this evening, but is interested in serving. So we will set up another interview with her. And like I said, that's all I got, but we have one more, I believe. Can you go back to it? Planning and zoning. Yeah, come on up. It's not in my packet, so if you guys will come on up. Do we have two applicants?
Yep, we've got Alexandra Kent George and Tracy Sutton.
You want the printed stuff?
That's all good. So this is planning and zoning, 3 regular member openings, 2 alternate member openings. Do we have any others going off? No. That should be it. And we have Alexandra and Tracy are here with us. Hi, welcome. Nice to see you both here. As I always ask, are you aware of planning and zoning's meeting schedule, roles, and responsibilities?
Yes.
And you have no conflicts about making those meetings or anything like that?
No.
All right. I'll open it up to other council members for some questions and then come back. I'll start with Ward if I can.
Well, Tracy, thank you for still not egging my house. Yet.
Yeah.
and there's still a shortage on toilet paper, so I think you're off the hook right now. And now we know how fast the cops will show up.
For the time being anyway. You know, during the campaign, first of all, thank you both for applying, and Tracy, thank you for willingness to get involved, to roll up your sleeves and do some of the work, make some sausage. During the campaign, you had said that you did not think the lumberyard should be approved. You've taken a position. Do you feel that you should recuse yourself during the discussion if you are on P&Z for a discussion on the lumberyard?
Well, I think that I really need to educate myself really well on the lumberyard, which is probably more than I had a chance to do during the election. I do, but even though I was vocally, you know, very vocal against it, I'd like to know more about it, but I probably would recuse myself. I think that would be appropriate.
And that was my major concern, then question for you, Tracy, but there are a number of things in the description of, and this applies to you too, Alexandra, is that some of the duties of P&Z, and you both are from real estate backgrounds and development, and I'm curious what, Alexandra, I'll ask you the same question about the lumberyard, and what would your advocacy be for the lumberyard? Do you have a decision on the lumberyard at this point?
I don't. I would have to learn more, and I know the plan has evolved and is changing, so I would have to study up. I'm not sure of the latest.
Okay, and you, and I think in your application said that you're concerned or want to have a direction on the future of Aspen. So I'd like to ask you, what is your vision of the future of Aspen?
I think a place that that people can afford to be in, a place that is friendly to business, a place that you can hopefully make a life and a career here as opposed to making it elsewhere and coming later. And I think that I'd like to, you know, I'm really interested in the armory. I'm really interested in hopefully creating more opportunities for local businesses. And I think P&Z is a really good place to do that. I debated HBC or P&Z, and I ultimately thought P&Z might be most appropriate for wetting my beak, if you will.
So a little follow-up on that. You're looking for P&Z to promoting local businesses. How do you see P&Z's role in promoting local businesses?
So I know just having from like just generally being around town, how tough it can be to get through the process. And so I'd like to support people who are looking to develop or run a business here, make that process more transparent, easier. I also mentioned housing. I'm very interested in seeing that young people can be here and that those said businesses will have employees.
And what about P&Z is not transparent now that you think you can make better?
I don't think I can answer that because I'm just not familiar with P&Z, but I would like to be somebody who's a younger face out there just available. I'm sure, I know Brittany's been on it. I know Christine Benedetti. So you definitely have had some young people. I believe Brittany's not reapplying she's not. So I don't think that it's been necessarily not done, but I'd like to continue that.
And do you have business developments that could be coming in front of P&Z that are currently in the planning or development stages?
I don't personally.
Or business-wise?
I don't business either at the moment.
Okay. And
in the future, that's a possibility, of course, in which case I would definitely recuse myself.
Okay. There's some duties that the P&Z has that I just want to question you on, both of you on, is that it's that you can initiate amendments to the title, text of the title, to initiate amendments to the official zone district map. Do you have ideas of what you would like to initiate changes on at this point on PNC?
I personally don't.
No, I don't have anything on my agenda as well.
Okay. Great, thank you both for applying and willingness to serve. It's, Sam can tell you that title, is it 26? You can have some good bedtime reading, it'll probably put you right to sleep.
I saw that 1,300-page packet, and I thought twice, but okay. Good thing I like to read.
Sam?
Yeah, the meetings are great. I'm glad to see you both applied, especially since, I mean, we're without a quorum right now. So I guess the only question I would ask is, do you feel well prepared to comment on the land use code from your backgrounds to help improve upon it?
I do, and I also feel like there are resources available if there are questions, so.
Right, I think there's a lot there, there's a lot that you still can learn. And there's a lot of reading.
Yeah, there's a lot of reading. Enjoy. Thank you.
John?
Yeah, I think this particular board is pretty important to have local leadership, and I'm aware Tracy lives in town. I'm curious about where your primary residence is, Alexandra.
I live in the West End.
Okay. The other question I have is for you, Alexandra. Do you foresee ever having any conflicts of interest? Being I see in your resume, you're managing construction development for projects ranging in scope and scale in and around Aspen. Do you think you'll ever have a conflict of interest while serving on planning and zoning?
It's possible, though I'm doing a lot less development management at the moment. I'm focusing more on brokerage.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your
I'm focusing more on brokerage, and I'm doing a lot less construction management.
So is that a yes or a no?
It's possible, so yes, there's a possibility for
Okay.
sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Bill?
Thanks to you both. It's nice to see you here. This is probably the most intensive citizen board, so I commend you both for applying. It's a lot of work. My question, I know you both well, so my question is a little bit of a philosophical one. Part of your role will be evaluating land use applications. And some of those land use applications may include some variance requests and some things that are not so black and white in the land use code. Can you help us understand how you might evaluate, as holistically, how you might evaluate a land use application and decide whether it's an appropriate fit for Aspen and something that you could get behind or be opposed to? What would be your approach? What would be your thinking, thought process, and process in general?
I'm happy to jump in. I would probably lean on, I mean, you and I have spoken about this, and Sam, you know this, being younger here, you can't know everything, so there's a historical context. So I'd probably lean on other people with more experience than I have, more history here, to help understand what's happened in the past, to inform a decision for now, whether that's, you know, the time it takes to evaluate something, or, you know, what the process is to understand if that is a fit for Aspen. I would hopefully, I would do my research and try and kind of short that learning curve, because I haven't been here for as long as Tracy.
But see, I think that's a good balance, because, you know, I've been here for a long time. You know, I've got an inherent knowledge of the neighborhoods and things and what's happened in the past, and, you know, and also then you have a fresh perspective coming from someone else who sees it in a different light. You know, I'm not preordained to anything that's happened. You know, I'm here to look at it and look at things thoughtfully and make thoughtful decisions by educating myself on the things I don't know. And I think that it's a good balance when you have someone who has been here for a long time and someone who's newer to it. I think you can bounce those ideas off each other, and I think that makes a really good rounded committee.
And what are some primary criteria, one or two on each side of this, that might make you feel good about a land use proposal or might make you feel bad about it and not be supportive of it?
Well, I think
So someone comes in for a land use proposal that needs to come in front of planning and zoning for whatever reason. What might make you fall in support of it? What might make you opposed to it?
Well, I think a lot of that's, just going to have to be based on what the project is and what the usage is. There's so many different variances out there that I really can't answer that question individually because I'm very open-minded. Look at when everybody decided to open up pot shops. 20 years ago, nobody would have even thought about that. Now it's like, and I know that's probably more CC&L, but like I'm saying, I think you need to have an open mind. I think you need to look at all the facts regarding there, and I don't think that you should come in with a preordained sense of what is right and what is wrong. I think that you need to be open to it, and I think that's one of the basic reasons we have the planning and zoning.
I've had experience working on projects, development projects of different size and scope in Aspen, both commercial and residential, as well as down in Basalt. And I think there's more than just a land use application. There are things that make a great project, and there are things that make a project particularly challenging, such as neighbors, timelines, construction management plans, things like that. And I think just having been on the other side, I'm aware of those things, and I would take all of that into consideration.
Thank you so much, both, for being here.
Thanks, Bill. A few questions. The Aspen Area Community Plan. Alexander, have you seen it or read it or?
I haven't read it yet. I am aware of it, though.
Okay. Tracy?
I have looked through it. Isn't it supposed to be updated like every 10 years? And it was 2012 that it was originally started, correct?
Correct.
No, it started before that, but,
Oh, maybe that was less.
but that was another,
It
that was the last one.
That last revision, yes.
Because, the Aspen Area Community Plan has been used as a guiding document, and it speaks to a lot of kind of community values and the like. So I really just wanted to hear what your take was on kind of, what the values of Aspen kind of have traditionally been as spelled out in the AACP, and whether you agree with those or don't agree with them or think that there's a different world here now or something like that. But I don't know if you can speak to that without really knowing it too well. So I don't know if you have any comments.
Well, I do have a comment, even though I've skimmed through it, I don't know it well. Okay, so I'm not going to even speak to that. I think that, a general consensus is we all want Aspen to prosper. What I love about the community plan is that it's ever-changing, so that, if something's not working, then you have the opportunity to fix it or make it better or improve upon it. So that was the general of what I got off of my, reading it through. Sorry.
And my understanding is that we want to preserve Aspen, and the reason that Aspen looks the way that it does is because we've taken a stance and been very thoughtful in what does come through and and what is approved in development here. And that's how, I have a client who's 93 years old and says Aspen is one of the few places that looks like it did when she was my age. So being very thoughtful, measured, and understanding that, to have that experience for me 60 years from now, that didn't just happen by accident. So, yeah.
Alexander, will you please clear up a little bit about your residency? Where do you live?
Oh, I live at 700 West Hopkins.
Did you just move in? Did you just move into town, or is that a new residence for you?
No, I've been there for 2.5 years, and I've been in Aspen for 8 years.
Thanks. Were you involved with Aspen Deserves Better?
Yes.
Were you involved in the content that Aspen Deserves Better and its website did, or what was your role?
My role was more boots on the ground, but I did work with Peter Grunny on Aspen Deserves Better and informing some of the newsletters. Yes.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
And follow
Else?
up on,
Go right ahead.
whether you both or either are appointed to P&Z. All right, now I'm green. Regardless of what the results are of your joining P&Z, I can't impress upon you strongly enough to read the Aspen Area Community Plan. That I think expresses the core values, the soul and the fabric of our community. It changes, but some things are just basic. There are some conflicting values in it, but I really think that both of you should read that document. Thank you.
Any others? Follow up? All right. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
HPC,
Oh, yeah.
Riley.
Oh, I only have some of it.
And for the record, these applications, the work session agenda was published, Mayor, last week. There was an HPC application that was added to your
Yeah, it's cool. It's my,
application today. Just for the record and for the public watching, I just thought it might be helpful for them to understand that there wasn't that the item has been on the agenda, but that there was additions to that item, essentially.
okay, so we have one more.
Tori, you want the resume?
I'm sorry.
It's okay. We have HPC and we have Riley that's here to talk to us. Thanks for your patience.
My pleasure.
Appreciate you.
One.
Just, yeah.
One regular,
One
one
regular, one
alternate.
alternate.
Right on. And Riley, as I have asked, and you've heard me ask it 4 or 5 times already, are you aware of the roles and responsibilities in the meeting schedule for Historic Preservation Commission?
I am.
And you don't have any conflicts there?
No.
All right, thank you. I'll open it up to other council members. I'm going to start back here with Bill.
Thanks, Riley, for applying. We appreciate you being here. I'm gonna ask another philosophical question, which is, how do you view Aspen's historic preservation programs and guidelines as contributing to the fabric of Aspen? And how do you think the results of the program have translated into a meaningful part of the community or not?
Yeah.
5 sentences or less.
Right. Well, I think that obviously Aspen is unique and special because of its historical nature, both in the different series of evolutions that it has gone through, and also in its architectural design and the character of the community. I think sets Aspen apart as a destination and also as a place to live full-time. So I think the Historical Preservation Commission has done an incredible job of preserving that. And I do think that's what has set Aspen apart in a big way. If we didn't have this system in place, or if we didn't have the historical nature of Aspen, I think in the blink of an eye you would have a ski resort that more looks like Vail, no offense to Vail, but looks more like Vail and doesn't have the character and the charm that I think a lot of people are looking for, especially when they're coming here to visit from big cities or other areas throughout the country. So I think it's incredibly important and has contributed a lot of value to what Aspen is now.
Thanks. Any elements of the guidelines I don't know how familiar you are with the historic preservation guidelines or not, but any of them that sort of stand out to you as being ineffective or inappropriate or worth further consideration?
Well, I think the guidelines are either 105 or 107 pages, and I started reading through them last night. And to be frank with you, I don't have any guidelines that I think aren't. I don't have any guidelines in mind that I think don't add value. I guess to flip that question a little bit, I think it's important to have such a broad spectrum of what is considered historical, because it's not just a white Victorian. It's not just, a modern building built in the 90s, right? Like the Benton building. Like I think it's all those things, and I think that that's important, and that's what Aspen is. So, no, there aren't any specific guidelines that I think are negative value to the
Bless you.
codes or guidelines.
Perfect. Thanks for being willing to serve. We appreciate it.
Sam?
Thank you, Riley, for your willingness to serve. I only got one question for you. I feel like HPC runs into an affordable housing complexity a lot of the time. Do you think it'd be easier or harder to like bend the guidelines for affordable housing when it sort of gets in the way of historic preservation sometimes?
As the person developing the affordable housing?
Or just as saying on HPC, do you think it's easier to grant HPC approval for an affordable housing project versus just a redevelopment of sorts, or?
I mean, it's probably easier for some. That being said, I think that it should be objective. I think affordable housing is certainly important, but I don't know if the character of the community, that's very subjective, and I think that you have to look at each case from a very objective perspective, and you can't give more weight to a affordable housing project or give more leniency just because it's affordable housing. I think that if the entire town is developed into affordable housing, then by that premise, we lose the historic nature of Aspen.
Thanks, Riley.
On the extreme scale of things.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Riley. Somehow in the process of your application coming in at the last minute, I lost my notes, so I'm going through these. What do you believe that the HPC should have purview over the core?
Absolutely.
Okay. You're familiar with Aspen Modern?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought I heard you say something about the historic projects built in the 90s, 1990s. Are you talking about 1890s?
No, I mean like the Benton building on the corner of Hyman and Spring Street. That is what I would consider, and I misquoted the decade, but that would be, I think that was probably built in the 60s actually. But that would be an example of something that's not an early 1890s or 1888 Victorian, right? So I think what I was saying is that it's important that there's not just one category of historic properties classified under the Historic Preservation Commission. I think it's a great thing that newer buildings relative to the late 1800s are still considered historic.
Yeah, the Aspen Modern are considered historic, and those are voluntary. Sitting on council, oftentimes we hear call up for HPC projects, and I heard you say something that I thought rang true to me, is that you have to look at each application objectively. What I've seen with applications that come before this board or this council are that we get sold a story, in that oftentimes I've seen that when somebody gets approvals for an HPC project, that the next day it's being flipped, and it's turned in my own opinion, it seems as though some of these HPC projects have turned into speculative developments more than preservation of historic assets. So that's a personal concern of mine, in that as an application comes in, you gauge it and judge it by what the application is, not by what the story that somebody is telling you, because those stories can change with the granting of an application. You're familiar with the changes made on workforce housing mitigation for HPC projects?
No.
Okay, that's something that could easily come up to speed on. Do you have any developments that you're working on that could come before HPC?
Not at the moment. I'm a real estate broker. I'm not a developer.
Okay. Thank you for your willingness to serve on this board.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just have one question. Are you aware of the benefits that are allotted to historic
Yes.
homes? Do you support the current rate of those benefits, or would you like to expand or retract them?
The current rate of the benefits, like such as the city TDR program and things like that.
Exactly.
And so, sorry, what was the second part of your question?
I guess, do you support the level of support, that level of benefits that we're allowing historic properties?
Yeah, I absolutely. I think that, so I rent a historic home right now, and it's interesting when you buy a car and you start seeing that car on the road all the time. Similar situation. The house I live in, now that I live in it, we just moved in a year ago from another condo in town. But my point is, once you experience that on a daily basis, you realize how special it is. And I think in order to preserve these properties, you have to incentivize the homeowners. The people who I'm renting from have owned the house for 60 years. You have to incentivize them not to take the big check and sell their house and get redeveloped. There has to be some incentive for an owner who appreciates historic property. They have historic photos all over the house. You have to incentivize them to say no to that big check, and some form of that comes by those city TDR programs and other things. So I think it's important. I don't think you're selling your soul when you are offering those credits or those opportunities for people who have owned those homes for so long. So I absolutely support them.
As a follow-up question, do you support it as it currently stands, the advantages? Would you like them expanded? We're doing enough or not enough?
I think that we're doing enough. I haven't given a ton of thought to this, but I would say that there are other opportunities that may be in the city's favor, other ways you could approach it. In addition to the city TDR programs, or modifying it in some way or another, that could be beneficial to the city and the people that live here, and the preservation of these homes. So like and this is just literally right off the cuff, but another city incentive program to not redevelop these properties whatsoever, right? And I don't know exactly how that would work, but I think there's other ways than just the city TDR program or other benefits. But I think it's worth looking at and always considering other additional options.
Thanks.
Is HPC the board that you are most interested in? Are you interested in any others like P&Z?
Right now, I think that, I would be open to P&Z, but I understand the time commitment and the importance of that is, I think they're both important, but I think that it's a little bit more than I can bite off at the moment and commit to. I applied specifically to Historic Preservation Commission because it's something I personally have interest in. So I think that if I can wake up in the morning, I know I have a meeting that afternoon, and I'm excited about the meeting I'm going to versus dreading it, then I'm going to add more value at the end of the day. So that's where HPC came in.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
A little follow-up that the TDR program was mentioned, and the only way those TDRs are severed is through a historic property, and I've always been kind of conflicted on this, is that as an incentive for somebody to sterilize development rights on a property at the expense of some other place where it gets landed. We generally, unless it's a PD, we have no say over where that PD gets landed, where another 250, or where that TDR gets landed, another 250 square feet or 500 square feet added onto a home in somebody else's neighborhood has always presented somewhat of a challenge for me philosophically. And you said, you mentioned an option for no development. And I think, let's say somebody has an historic asset, and if you didn't want anything done on it, they could just create TDRs for all available development space on that lot. So that is a way that somebody could preserve a historic asset from future development just by selling off any development rights.
Right.
Yeah, the TDR program is, it generates a lot of money, and those things, it's amazing how expensive a 250 square foot development right is. And I think it does have value for preserving the asset, but at the expense of some other neighborhoods.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, you have to weigh the value of the TDRs to the value of the property with the TDRs, right? So if you get it, I mean, this is a longer discussion, but if a property's worth $8 million and they can sell $1.2 million worth of TDRs, they're still not fully realizing that incentive of the value of their property, and so that's the challenge, right? So you have to have someone that really respects the historic preservation of the city, because even when they sell the TDRs, they're still making a sacrifice, whether it's a lot of money to, whether it's still a lot of money, right? But it's the opportunity cost in their mind between what they're, so that's a whole different conversation or a longer conversation. But yeah, it certainly is an incentive, and you see people taking advantage of it, which I think is great.
Thank you. Oh, road or mountain?
Road or,
Just bicycling.
okay, yeah. I'll have to check it out. I haven't ridden.
No, I thought it was under your interest.
I am a cyclist, yeah.
Road or mountain?
Oh, both. Sorry, I thought you were saying road or mountain. I was like, I haven't ridden that mountain. Both. I was a road cyclist for a while, or for a long time, and last year I got a cross-country bike, so. Smuggler is challenging on a mountain bike. Sorry?
Cutters, breaking away,
Yeah. I haven't seen
Indiana.
it. Okay, yeah.
John.
Sorry.
Before my time.
Yes, it is before your time. You're happy about that.
Great biking movie.
Not
All right,
before
I'll
my
have
time, however.
It's one of the best.
Thank you so much for your time tonight. Thank you for your interest in serving on HPC, and we'll be in touch with you very soon.
All right, thanks.
Thanks,
Riley.
Appreciate it.
We have Sarah Lowe, who is on the line now. Sarah's joining us a little bit late. Sarah, can you hear me? You there?
Yes, I can, yeah. Can you hear me?
We got you. So, Sarah, we were able to talk with Sally, who's also an applicant for the Kids First position. So we'll give you a couple minutes, and we'll just at least get a chance to meet you. As I ask everybody, are you aware of the role and responsibilities, as well as any meeting dates that this position would require of you?
Yes, I am. Stefan Reveals filled me in. He really reiterated that it's free lunch. I said, oh, okay, got it. So I put those dates on my calendar. Yes, I am aware of the times and the days we meet, and that does work for my schedule.
And Sarah, for council's knowledge, will you tell us the age of your children?
Sure, my kiddos are 9 and 6.
Thank you so much. I'm going to look around for other council members if they've got any direct questions for you. Bill, I'm going to go ahead and start with you again if I can.
Sure, thanks. Thanks, Sarah, for applying and for being willing to serve. Did any of your kids go through any of Aspen's preschool programs that were under the purview of Kids First?
Yes, they did. They both attended Wildwood, and they also attended the preschool at the elementary school.
Great, the cottage, right?
Yes, at the cottage, correct.
Wonderful. And are you familiar with council's directive to expand childcare opportunities in Aspen?
Yes, I have heard of some of the ideas and plans. I don't know all the ins and outs, but I am aware of their ideas and the need. I've seen the need for many years and as to why we'd want to do this.
Great. Any ideas of your own that come to mind to help expand childcare opportunities in Aspen?
Yeah, when my kiddos were really young, we did a hybrid of, we did Wildwood School, and we also had a little neighborhood, in-house service. And I think that those are sometimes underutilized, or people want to do them under the radar. But I've worked with some programs in Connecticut that work with those in-home caregivers, just to make sure that they're aware of some of those developmental stages of the young kiddos. And I think too, with the fact that space is sort of hard for us here in Aspen and finding all that the need is still there regardless of the space. And so maybe branching out a little bit to, I guess, involve those in-home caregivers, particularly for the babies. I think that's the biggest hurdle for young families here in Aspen.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
John, anything from you? Questions?
Hi, Sarah, it's Ward.
Hi, Ward. I like your Avs jersey today, too, by the way.
Well, you're on the board then.
We're deep in the Avs at my house.
Good, good. Corey's an
That's
Avs
all
fan
hockey.
too?
That's all it takes.
That's right.
And Sarah, you're a lot like my wife in that you've dedicated your life to education, and I'm so appreciative of your lifetime dedication and long commitment to the Aspen Elementary School and the school district. And I don't have any specific questions. I think I'm familiar enough with your background and your strengths, and to compare you and Sally. I think it would be great if we could have both of you on, but thank you for your willingness to serve.
Yeah, you are so welcome. I feel honored to be even asked to even apply. So thank you.
All right, Sarah, thank you so much. That's all the real questions we have for you. We will be in touch with you and let you know about the status of this position. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh my gosh, and thank you for your flexibility. I apologize for being late. Nothing like taking a kiddo to the orthopedic. Geez, only in Aspen, right?
All good. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
All right, you too. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Is that our last one?
I think so.
Thanks. All right, that concludes our board and commission interviews for this evening. For anybody that's out there watching or wants to spread the word to their friends, we still have openings on some boards, so please go on to the City of Aspen website, look for that application. There's also a full description of all the boards on our website, so please, we encourage our citizens to take part as much as they can. That'll bring us to the next part of our agenda, and this is time for a Kids First update.
Great. This is going to take me a minute to get plugged in.
Yep.
I'm not sure how this, it pulls out
Yeah.
and then goes directly into the computer.
Could,
Yeah.
depending on what computer you got.
I got it. Okay.
So he's a little kid to figure it out.
Is that me?
Get me a kid.
Okay. If you'll give me just a moment.
She's got it.
I need to get it into the, not this mode. Vaughn, I might need your help getting out of the. There, that's good. Thank you. You can stay here if you want.
Stay close.
You never know. Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for staying, and I know it's kind of already been a long afternoon for you, but we're excited to have this opportunity to share with you the great work that Kids First is doing. Congratulations, Sam and Bill. It's nice to meet you both. I'm Megan Monahan. Along with Nancy Nichols, we're co-managers of Kids First.
You can step up.
She looks cozy.
She can just wave, yeah.
Cozy, she's cozy.
Great. See if this will advance. There we go. So I wanted to start by touching on our mission statement and goals, which are nicely aligned with the city's values of service, partnership, stewardship, and innovation. And I'm doing this because I don't know if Sam and Bill are really familiar with our mission statement and goals. So our mission statement, as you can all read, is to promote the availability of quality, affordable early childhood care and education, and to provide access to early childhood information and resources. And then the goals fit nicely under the mission statement: to increase the quality of early childhood education, to maintain affordability of programs, and also provide information regarding the true cost of childcare, to increase and maintain availability of childcare programs, increase public education and awareness about the importance of early childhood education, because we know that 0 to 3 is really the most important period of time in a child's life in terms of brain development. And then also to increase knowledge of early childhood development and parenting for families with young children. So this is our passion, and it's obviously important to all of you because you chose it as one of your critical goals. So we're going to start with the child care capacity 2-year city council goal. Elements of this goal are increasing capacity, so increasing the number of available child care spaces, as well as recruitment and retention of the early childhood workforce. I'm sure you're all aware that there's a child care crisis in our community, in the valley, and really across the country. This crisis refers to, among other things, a lack of available spaces, as well as a shortage of qualified early childhood educators. At the September 19th, 2022 goal update work session, Council agreed that staff should focus on workforce recruitment and retention while also continuing our work on monitoring building space needs and possible funding opportunities. Today, we're going to give you an overview of the 2023 budget, Kids First programs and grants, and of course, our work to increase capacity and recruitment and retention of the early childhood workforce. And anytime you have questions, just jump in. So we're going to start with our efforts to increase the number of childcare spaces available, which involve the following elements. So starting with Burlingame, this will be a new childcare center in the Burlingame Ranch neighborhood that could serve 70 to 90 children and employ approximately 25 educators with affordable housing including in the plans. On April 11th of this year, Council gave the direction to move forward with the land use and schematics. So basically to get the project shovel ready for when and if we have the funding for Burlingame. Some immediate and concrete capacity expansion measures include the CMC Little Steps College. Excuse me. This is a brand-new infant program that opened December 5th, and it serves 7 to 8 babies a day. Next is Ajax Cubs in the Yellow Brick Building. So this is a new childcare program operating in the previously vacant Yellow Brick classrooms. So, Bill, you were asking about that earlier of one of the people applying for our board. This is the those classrooms that were vacated. Ajax Cubs is now the program that's going into those classrooms.
I recently toured it. It's very nice.
Great, yeah. So they opened a toddler room in February and a preschool room April 10th, and they have a very solid plan for opening the remainder of the classrooms over the next 4 months as they get fully staffed. They operate 5 days a week, 243 days a year, and they're closed only 11 weekdays out of the year, which is a great service to families in our community. Next is the Preschool of the Arts at the Jewish Community Center, and this is a new child care center that opened in September, serving 8 families. Another element of the planned increased capacity is the City of Aspen Kids First Capacity Expansion Funding. These financial supports they're provided to new programs like Ajax Cubs and Little Steps College. These include startup funds, grants, funds to furnish and outfit classrooms, and also to fund directors as they get licensed, because it takes kind of a long time to get licensed. During Q1, Kids First granted a little more than $35,000 to Ajax Cubs and Little Steps College to get their programs up and running. We also participate in regional efforts, including Basalt Early Childhood Coalition, the Rocky Mountain Early Childhood Council, and the Confluence Early Childhood Coalition. So Confluence is an initiative to create a taxing district to support early childhood education in the 3-county region. So this is a really long-term project, working with Garfield, Eagle, and Pitkin. And there are a lot of different partners involved in that. Some of the child care prospects Mid-Valley include Willard's Parcel 2E. And you probably already know about this, but SKICO's dedicating a space in a new building at the Hub in Willits to child care, and Blue Lake Preschool Director Michelle Oger is selected as their operator. That's going to take some time because their estimated price tag is $8 to $12 million for build-out for 5 to 7 classrooms. On the south side neighborhood of Basalt, Stotts Mill is accepting proposals for the building designated for child care space there. They're estimating the build-out for that space will be about $1 million, and so they're accepting proposals for that. Also recently, Roaring Fork School District increased capacity by adding 3 preschool classrooms, so that is some capacity, which is great. So moving on to recruitment and retention. This photo is from our 2022 annual fall in-service. So every year we have a professional development opportunity for all the educators in Pitkin County. So these are some of those educators. So these are real people who benefit from our programs, like the wage enhancement grant funding, which is focused on increasing the availability and the ability for licensed child care staff to afford to live and work near the community in which they work, so they can thrive in this community. As we all know, housing is a huge issue for our workforce, and this is one way that we're addressing that issue. The award is $500 per full-time employee per month, or $6,000 annually. We rolled out the wage enhancement grant to child care programs inside of city limits as per council's directive, starting January 2023, and all 4 programs within the city limits are participating. We met with the directors to review their reporting from the first quarter of 2023 this March, and we discussed the success of the programs and how the wage enhancement supports staff recruitment and retention. So quarter one payout was just over $46,000. Quarter two payout is right at $56,000, with a total payout for quarter one and quarter two just over, well, not just over, but $102,618 to date. So that's for 38 teachers that are full-time that work in childcare programs within city limits. In the time we've been operating the program, 3 teachers have left the field and 7 new teachers have been hired. And you all know this, but it's a 5-year grant program that the city is providing to the child care programs. So they are required to provide plans to us demonstrating how they're going to increase their revenue to meet the wage increase when that funding drops off. So all of the child care programs, when we met with them, provided us plans, and they all included tuition increases. So they have other plans as well, but they all have plans to increase tuition over time. And they also talked with us about other plans like fundraising and that kind of thing. The impact of the tuition increases, because we know that this is going to impact families, is going to be mitigated by our financial aid program, which we are adjusting to increase the support that families will receive in financial aid as the tuition rates increase as well. So we have some narratives that we've received from the providers when we met with them, and so I'd like to share some of those stories with you. So these are direct quotes from real people, so real child care providers, about how the wage enhancement funding is impacting them. So one person said, "Over the past several months of health concerns and searching for answers, I've racked up medical debts and depleted a large portion of savings. The monthly wage enhancement has allowed me to stay on top of my medical bills." Another person said, "The wage enhancement has helped replace a furnace that broke in their house." Another person said, my son is recovering from back surgery and the wage enhancement has helped pay for medical bills." Another teacher said, their student loan debt has been a huge burden, and so now the wage enhancement is helping them pay that down. One teacher said it's made purchasing a home for her family possible. So these are real impacts. These are real people, and the wage enhancement is having huge impacts on them. Multiple directors said that it's made hiring new staff easier with that higher wage. So another measure towards recruitment and retention is the Yellow Brick rent waiver. So prior to January 2023, child care programs in the Yellow Brick building paid $11 per square foot, or approximately $135,000, which was revenue to Kids First. The rent subsidy agreement was added to the lease language for 2023, and it will be considered a pilot program depending on the success of the program. So the waiver agreement specified that the savings in rent to child care programs in the Yellow Brick be passed along to benefit and directly support staff. We met with the directors, just like we did with the wage enhancement, to review reporting from the first quarter of March and discuss the successes of the program and how it supports staff recruitment and retention. So I'd like to relay some of the stories on how the rent waiver is supporting recruitment and retention to you. Again, these are real people, real directors. This is really what they're doing with the money that they're saving on rent at the Yellow Brick. Aspen Mountain Tots is using the money saved on rent to provide health insurance for their staff. Now, Ajax Cubs, over the next year, will be hiring an extra staff member to work as a float teacher in the classroom. So for people who are not in the early education field, what this means is it's a extra teacher who can go around to different classrooms and provide breaks for teachers, let them go do professional development. So it's really a great incentive for staff to stay. It's a real retention incentive, because if teachers aren't feeling stressed out because they can take breaks, they can go do professional development, it's a big deal. They're going to also dedicate part of their funds saved on rent for staff appreciation events like bowling night and breakfast and lunches and different team building activities. This was a really creative idea that they came up with that I was impressed with. They're renting 1 or 2 houses. I think they're aiming for 2 houses for their staff, and using some of the money saved on the rent from the Yellow Brick to pay for the houses that they're renting so that their staff have their housing subsidized, which is a pretty creative idea. And then the Early Learning Center, one of the things that they've been able to start is English classes for teachers during the workday. So a large majority of the staff at the Early Learning Center and some of our other programs have a home language other than English, and they sometimes struggle with speaking with parents. So with the extra funds available, the Early Learning Center is providing English classes to their teachers. They're also providing workbooks and some one-on-one tutoring as well. I think they're also thinking about buying bikes for some of their, or not for some of the teachers, but buying bikes for the program, and that way the teachers who bus in have ways to get around town, which is a pretty creative idea as well. We also have our financial aid program. We've made adjustments to both the maximum family income allowed to qualify and the percentage of support a family qualifies to receive. What this really means is that more families will be able to qualify for financial aid scholarships than previously were able to. The next application deadline is May 1st, and we've been advertising, so I think we're going to get more applications. Currently, we have 37 families being served, and the spring quarter funding totals just over $108,000 in scholarships to families. That's a lot of money going out that's really impacting families. Additionally, we offer trainings to directors, and these trainings are for accounting and leadership skills, as well as one-on-one financial coaching. So this is really just something to strengthen the leadership of the directors in the child care programs, hopefully adding to retention of their staff and the directors. We also have a hiring bonus for newly hired child care staff. New employees, any new employee in a child care program in Pickens County is eligible for a $1,000 hiring bonus, and then an additional $500 if they stay with that school for 6 months. And the directors have indicated this bonus has been a really great recruitment incentive for potential hires. The Q1 reporting for the hiring bonus is $10,000. So that's from January to April for 10 new staff. And I'm just going to keep rolling unless people have questions, okay? So now we're going to look at the Kids First grants for 2023. You all probably know this, but infant and toddler rooms make little to no money because the costs for staffing are very high, and state licensing requires very low child-to-teacher ratios. So our 2023 infant and toddler grant funding really helps to mitigate some of these costs. This funding is provided to all child care programs in Pickens County that serve infants and or toddlers. We currently fund 5 infant and 6 toddler rooms, and we're anticipating adding 2 new infant rooms and 1 new toddler room within the next 6 months at Ajax Cubs and Growing Years. So the total reporting for 2023 for Q1 and 2 for the infant and toddler grant funding is just over $137,000 in toddler and infant grants. So this operational funding really makes it possible for programs to continue providing high-quality care for babies and toddlers. We also provide quality improvement and professional development grants. So these are grants that child care programs participating in Colorado Shines can qualify and apply for. And then also professional development. So any teacher that works in King County can apply for a professional development grant through their program to pay for classes, education. We fund all of that. The total requested and approved for 2023 is approximately $50,000. And these funds are paid out as reimbursable. So they request the amount that they think they're going to need, and then if the teachers take the classes or if they do buy the equipment, then we reimburse them for those things. We also have the City of Aspen Kids First Capacity Expansion Funds, and I already mentioned these. They're startup grants to new programs. So these have been used to outfit classrooms and fund directors while they get licensed. And I already mentioned this, but we granted over $35,000 to Ajax Cubs and Little Steps College to get their programs up and running. And this next slide shows some photos from materials that were purchased with the 2023 capacity funding at work. So cribs, toys, books, materials, other furniture. The funding also provided updated cabinets and storage and sinks for the new classrooms in the yellow brick. So you can see in the photo on the right, the new cabinets and sinks.
I like the rug.
Isn't that pretty? Yeah, that's a really lovely classroom. So now we're going to look at Kids First general programming. So I know some of you know that these are some of the programs that we offer, but I don't know if our new council members are really aware of the programs. So I'm going to try to get through these quickly. But there's a lot because we do a lot of amazing things. The VIP program, because we think teachers are very important people, provides incentives for teachers, and this is really based on professional development. So it's offered twice a year. Teachers can apply for this incentive every 6 months, and they can earn up to $1,300 twice a year, which is quite a bit of money. In 2022, we funded 56 teachers. And we anticipate the numbers will be higher for 2023 because we have more programs participating. So again, these are real people benefiting from our programs. We also provide coaching. So these are quality improvement supports for teachers using research-based assessment tools and relationship-based coaching. So this really impacts quality in the child care programs. We have a resource teacher who is a full-time early childhood qualified substitute teacher who is also modeling best practice in the classrooms while working with children and teachers. And we have our internship program, which is new, and we already graduated one intern who has successfully been hired in one of the child care programs, and she's actually at Little Red Schoolhouse. And so now we're training our second intern. And so these are full-time term positions. So they're hired on as a full-time employee at Kids First until they are fully qualified to be an early childhood teacher, and then they go and get a job in a child care program. So this is really our way of creating that teacher, early childhood educator pipeline. We also have a nurse consultant who provides healthcare consulting to the child care programs. And we have plans to contract with a qualified mental health provider, which we have had one in the past, and then that person, I think, wanted to work more on their private practice. So we haven't had a mental health consultant, but we're going to have one soon, hopefully starting in June. This is really to support mental well-being of the teachers and children and families in our community. We also provide professional development, so lots of different kinds of continuing education and classes for teachers. And we're building a website called Aspen Kids Guide. That's the logo you can see there. So this is something to address what families have told us that they really need and want to see is one central location for information on services, childcare camps, events, and more. And we're collaborating with the Aspen Family Connections on that state grant to help fund that project. We also offer parent and family education, so lots of different workshops and learning opportunities. We bring in professionals and provide a variety of skill-building learning opportunities for families. So this next part, I'm going to get silly. I'm going to ask for a drum roll. Okay, drum roll, please. What we've all been waiting for is waitlist information. And I love the picture of this little guy. He's so patiently waiting, like we've all been doing for a long time. So we've partnered with the Rocky Mountain Early Childhood Council to collect and compile a waitlist enrollment data from the programs in Pickens County. And as you all know, this has been really hard to collect because there's so many duplicate families on wait lists. So things to know, all 14 programs in Pickens County provided waitlist information. And this data it really just represents a snapshot in time as of April 4th, 2023. So it changes. And Stacy Petty at Rocky Mountain Early Childhood created a presentation just on the waitlist project. And I have handouts for all of you, and we can make this information public if we want to. But so we know that we have 42 expectant parents. We have children that are birth to 1 year old. We have 103 children on wait lists that are birth to 1 year old, 177 1 to 3 year olds, and 138 3 to 5 year olds. So that's a total of 460 kids. So it's as big as we thought it was.
And does that mean they are unserved and on a wait list, or they are served and on a wait list?
They are unserved, they are on a wait list. There may be a small number of duplicates. Stacy found even if there's, a 25% amount of duplicates, that there's still 314 children in need of care.
And this is from Aspen to?
Just Pickens County.
Just Pickens County.
Just Pickens County.
Megan, does 460 and 541 mean children or days per week, or what's the
Children.
measure there?
Individual children.
And each family and each child has different desires and needs in terms of how many days per week. So how do we equalize that?
Right. Well, and I think that's why at the bottom it says, we've got the license capacity of 541. So those are 541 slots. And there are 12 openings. So the 12 openings is because some, maybe it's 1 day a week and families need it, not that Monday, but Tuesday through Friday.
So 541 means 541 enrolled children.
No, so our programs, all the programs in Pickens County have a capacity of 541 slots.
Slots. So 460 is not slots, 460 is children. So these are disparate statistics.
Yes, yes.
That's confusing.
It is confusing, and I'll give you her report afterwards, and you can look through it, and it's probably gonna just bring up more questions, but I have the PowerPoint presentation that she created, but it's.
Quick question, Megan. If there are 11 openings and 460 on the wait list, why haven't those 11 openings been filled?
Right, well, because I think what happens, especially this time of year, families have sort of figured something out for, this school year. But also, like I was telling Bill, a family, there may be an opening on a Monday, right, in a program, but the family doesn't need care on the Monday. They need it Tuesday through Friday. And a lot of families need it 5 days a week. So for them to just send their child one day, it's just not worth it to them. Or they are sending them those days, but they also need it other days.
I was gonna ask, how many childcare facilities short, if you, like, I could just do the math, but, like, how many more childcare facilities does it feel like Picken County and the city needs to fill 460?
I mean, it depends on what size they all are, and
But it sounds like it almost needs to double. Yeah, okay.
yeah. Yeah, and the report that the Confluence Early Childhood Education Coalition did, their reports were that we actually have fewer unserved families than the other two counties, than Garfield and Eagle.
And do we feel like of those 460 that are on wait list, is it usually one of the parents staying home? Is that usually the remedy that ends up happening in this situation?
I think so, and I think also, like Sarah was mentioning in the interview, there's families who have like family, friends, and neighbors who help out.
Yeah.
And I think that is an untapped kind of reservoir of, you know, people who have cared for children, but they're just not licensed.
And the licensing is like the greatest barrier to entry, or are there other like codes that need to be met for it to become an official child care facility at someone's just house?
Yeah, I think licensing is a huge barrier because they have a lot of different requirements around, like it can't be a second-story apartment and things like that. And a lot of us rent, and a lot of us can't put a fence around our yard or something like that. Licensing has been pretty good about giving out waivers for things like that, but I think also some people don't want to become licensed. Maybe they're nannies and they only want to have, you know, the one or two families that they nanny for, that kind of thing.
It definitely seems like that, like you said, it's untapped, and that would be at least one of the easier solutions that I'd love to see Kids First help with.
Right. And I think one of the reasons that we haven't been really involved in unlicensed care is because the city of Aspen taxpayers are what fund our department. And so for that money to go to unlicensed care could be problematic because there aren't a lot of checks and balances on quality.
I sort of meant if someone wanted to get licensed, to use Kids First to help them get licensed, to hopefully create
sure.
maybe more. Those,
We definitely have programs for that.
that does exist
Yeah,
already. Okay.
then that's what our startup funding would definitely be used towards. In fact, you know, even just paying like for Ajax Cubs and Little Steps College, the time that it takes for the directors to get the programs open and licensed, it's time that they're not working another job. And so we paid for basically their time. Yes, and that's something that we have advertised in the past as well. Like, do you want to open home childcare? We will help you. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And just for clarification, these are state regulations, not local regulations for licensing?
Correct. Yeah, they're just the state licensing regulations. And they are, I mean, they're pretty strict, and they should be, right? Because they're to keep children safe. Yeah. But I will share that with you all, and we can share it digitally as well, the presentation on waitlists. So now we're going to talk about the Yellow Brick Building capital improvements. These are the capital improvements approved and scheduled for 2023. The yellow brick entrance steps, that is in the RFP stage. There's the flooring, so we're replacing the indoor flooring in the yellow brick, and the plumbing, and then Burlingame Child Care Center. This is something that has been complete to schematics and land use approval. Excuse me. This next slide is about the same.
Excuse me just a sec. it took me a little bit to find the flooring, because that was a carryover from the 2022 budget. Are there any other outstanding capital projects that aren't in the 2023 that were maybe previously?
No,
Okay.
good question, though. And, I mean, to that, you know, it's also really important for Sam and Bill to know that the yellow brick has been very well maintained. The city's taken a really good job taking care of this building. We've done work towards energy efficiency, like replacing wiring, adding LED lights, solar panels. We've replaced the roof. We have new boilers, and we have a very advanced computerized heating system. So on the radar for 2026 is to possibly replace windows. So we would work with CoA and an energy consultant to help make sure that all improvements meet energy requirements, the energy efficiency requirements. Yeah. We're getting there, you guys. Thanks for being so attentive. Okay, so now we're going to look at the Kids First 2023 budget. The top left green column shows the total amount allocated for 2023, and the light blue column shows the amount spent to date. The general administrative category, that includes staff salaries, management, office supplies, and general supplies. Public outreach, this is events and food, things like Kids First Advisory Board meeting lunches, and then our annual in-service, so the picture that we showed with all the educators. That's a really big event that we throw every year. And we bring in like a national speaker on some kind of professional development that we know will benefit our educators. The yellow brick building, that $260,000, that's the request for the PO for the whole year. For security, supplies, the maintenance tech 3 salary, gas, and the computerized heating system. Financial aid, that's scholarships for families. Operational subsidies, so that one is on the next slide. There'll be a lot more details about that. And quality improvement supports, this includes coaching, grants, and intern expenses. And then the reimbursable supports, that is the fund for the nurse consultant, the mental health consultant, substitute teacher, as well as training and travel expenses. And then part of each of these categories, most of them include Kids First staff expenses like health insurance and other employee costs. So the next slide takes a deeper dive into the operational subsidy and financial aid. So this slide breaks down the approved budget and the funds spent to date in, so capacity expansion. This funding will continue to support additional childcare classrooms. We are focusing on new ideas for expansion. Infant and toddler funding, it says 10 classrooms, but we're currently funding 11 classrooms, and we expect to bring on 3 or 4 more. Workforce and workforce hiring bonus. So a very small amount of this, as you can tell, has been spent. The VIP funding for childcare teachers is a part of this, and that will happen in June. And so that's expected to be around $65,000. And then additional funding will go to training and workshops for childcare staff. And then the hiring bonuses are on target, and they definitely seem to be helping with recruitment, which is a big part of our goal. The wage supplement is on target for the 4 City of Aspen childcare programs. Funding was originally approved by council for 12 childcare programs in Pickens County. However, the county funded those programs with their ARPA funds, and that was for a 3-year funding. And so that's why there is money in that category that isn't currently being spent, and we're exploring other ways to spend that money, and we'll probably come back to you for that at some point. And then financial aid funding is on target for 2023. Okay, so lastly, May is the month of the young child. I don't know if you all know this, but it's coming up. And we invite you all to celebrate with us. We have a lot of really fun events. This is the general schedule, and we can send the flyer out to you. If any of you would like to join our parade on May 16th, we need mascots. So if any of you want to dress up in one of these mascot costumes, it's actually super fun. And we will see you here on May 9th for the city proclamation. And it's where you all proclaim it the month of the young child. And thank you so much for listening and letting me give you this update. We look forward to continuing our work on this goal with you, supporting children and families and child care providers in this community that we love so much. Thank you for the conversation, and I'm here for any questions.
Thank you so much. We can start with clarifying questions. If anybody has any information that they saw here that they need some clarifying. So if there's anything on that category, let's start with that.
I'm happy to start.
Sure.
Thanks, Megan. Thanks, Nancy. Seems like you guys are putting in a lot of hard work on a new directive here, so good job and getting results.
Thanks.
Increasing capacity. So the one sort of outlier, maybe two, CMC and the JCC, that are not in the yellow brick, kind of outside of your direct umbrella. I'm curious, I know you mentioned at CMC you provided startup funding. I'm unclear on what you've done for the Preschool of the Arts. And the reason I ask, it is a clarifying question, but I think that there are probably other opportunities in Aspen to replicate this. You know, there's a lot of churches and community facilities that don't have preschool programs. So I'm curious, can we replicate that success elsewhere and expand upon that?
Definitely. And they are, the Preschool of the Arts is participating in the wage enhancement because they are in the city boundaries and the city limits. And if another program, like if someone wanted to open a program in a church, then they would be provided with the startup funding. Yeah.
And why were they not provided with startup funding?
Preschool of the Arts. They are participating in some funding, but they didn't require it to be honest.
Because they had
They already
financial
had
capacity.
I think because they had the financial capacity and the space that they were using, they were already using for childcare, just not running a childcare program. So it was a space they were using for care for children while their parents were doing other, worship-related activities. So it was already outfitted. And then as they have applied for other grants, like we provide them coaching to apply for other grants, and they can apply for professional development grants with us. The quality improvement grants, they will be able to apply for once they become Colorado Shines rated, or at least basically in the queue to become rated for Colorado Shines. That's one of the qualifying factors in order to apply for the quality improvement funding.
And whose decision was it to not fund them for the startup funding? Was that?
They didn't apply.
They didn't ask for it, okay,
They didn't
understood.
apply for it, yeah.
Great.
And also, Bill, so you know, other programs do participate in our quality improvement funding that are not those 4 programs. So like the Aspen School District and Wildwood and Growing Years, they apply for funding for quality improvement grants and professional development, and they do receive those funds.
Got it, thanks. I believe, I could be wrong here, but I believe Colorado as a state passed some kind of universal preschool program. How is that going to affect Kids First? How's it going to affect the financial aid programs? could you give me just a 2-second spiel on what it is that got approved?
11 hours a week.
Or like a 2-week spiel, maybe.
I just want like,
it's-
does it cover half a day, 5 days a week? I forget what
It covers 10 hours a week for most 4-year-olds. And then for some 4-year-olds, it can be between 50 and 30 hours a week, depending on risk factors. So, and it's just 4-year-olds. And the parents have to apply, and the programs also have to be participating. And not all programs are going to participate because it's a lot of work for them. But it will impact how we structure financial aid for those 4-year-olds, basically. Because it's calculated at an hourly rate, and ours is calculated at a daily rate. So it's going to take some work, kind of revamping that part of financial aid. And we're not going to be, for lack of a better word, allowing families to double dip. So if they're getting 10 hours of childcare provided by UPK, then Kids First isn't going to pay for those hours as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's great. You mentioned that you need to advertise, or you are advertising the financial aid opportunities. Why is that something that needs to be advertised?
Well, I think a lot of families, there's a lot of reasons why families don't apply. Some people are just those people who are like, I don't need help, we don't need help, we don't want people to know our business, or they don't want to release their tax documents. But we need to advertise to get the word out there because we've changed it. So we've made it so that more families can qualify.
And do you review those applications internally, or do you use a third party?
So we have a financial aid review committee, and there are people who, for the most part, work at banks. And one of the people is on the financial aid, or on the advisory board, and then the rest of the people are independent.
Okay, so that could be something to consider to address the concern about people not revealing information, is if you farm it out, and there are lots of places that utilize that kind of service. You can go, these are people in Iowa, they have no interest in your business, so.
Right, and we're also going to be integrating with the new program that the city's using called Flux, and I think that's going to make the grant application process a little more, I guess, anonymous feeling for people. I think it will be a lot less like handing us their, their tax returns, yeah.
2 more quick ones. Aside from overall capacity expansion, which obviously is clearly needed, what elements of childcare are we not providing adequately? Meaning, is it expanded hours of operation, expanded days of service, or something else I'm not thinking of entirely?
Right, I mean, I think some families would like care in the evenings and over the weekends, and it's something that we've discussed with childcare providers, and I think what comes up with the workforce is that they don't want to work in the evenings and on the weekends. It's really hard to get childcare providers at all, let alone people who want to work, into the night or on the weekends. But I think those are probably untapped needs. A couple years ago, we held an event, like a listening event for parents and families and the community, and really just brainstormed, what do you need, what needs are not being met? And a lot of it was just childcare in general, especially infant and toddler care, and then choice. Families would really like to have choices.
Got it. Okay, and then this one does not come from a judgmental position. I'm not educated enough on Kids First at this point, so please don't interpret it that way. But why do we need 2 directors for Kids First?
Why do we need 2 directors? Well, we're not directors, we're co-managers.
I'm sorry, managers. I was looking at that and then said the word director.
May I take that question?
Okay.
Would it be okay?
Okay.
Thanks for asking, Bill. When Shirley was retiring, we were looking at going out and doing a national recruitment, Nancy and Megan came to me and their depth of experience and knowledge in Kids First, and we were actually going through a time too where what we were hearing from the programs were, you know, with COVID, with all the changes going on, what we want is stability and we want familiarity. And so we had this opportunity in front of us. And Megan and Nancy not only bring together a good working relationship, they have very different skill sets. And so it was a unique opportunity that was presented to us. And I've had experience in the past having 2 department heads, and we went through all of the things that are, here are the things that could go wrong, right? Here are these things, conditions precedent that must exist if this is going to work. And it has worked out incredibly well, and I've been so pleased to hear, particularly from the child care programs, about how much they appreciated a really smooth transition. And I think the biggest testament to their work is not only that it was a seamless transition, but they actually implemented a number of new programs, including the rent subsidy and the wage stabilization in a stunning amount of time. And I don't know that we would have had that with a new director. Thanks.
Thank you. That's it for my clarifying questions. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Sam? Sure.
I just wanted to add that I love that we finally got the wait list information, and I was going to ask for a potential deeper dive, if it ever could come to place, of sectors of the economy of which people are leaving to care for their child is something I'd be very interested to know. And then like days and times, you sort of talked about nights, but the shortfall gap as far as like where could we most efficiently fill the gaps as far as, the sectors of the economy and the times a day, and see if we can get more people into the workforce that are home because of childcare, because this is just one layer of the issue is childcare, and then it goes into everything else in the valley as far as affordable housing and people actually being at work, so.
Yeah, I agree. I recently attended one of these regional efforts at increasing capacity, and it was run by the state, and what they were saying was what the state is really pushing for is workplace-based childcare programs and looking at land. Was one of the things the state was talking about. They don't know what land costs here, so it's not the best recommendation for our area, but I think workplace-based childcare is one of the big ones.
I think it would help, or at least I hope it would help fill that gap.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sam. John?
No questions, just a comment. Just under 2 years ago, the previous council, before Bill and Sam were on, we were encouraged to pick some areas that we wanted to work on, and we were strongly encouraged to keep it a small list so that we would have greater success. And we chose reducing greenhouse gases, housing, and childcare. And I'm really pleased to hear this news tonight to find out that, government works slowly, but we are making big progress in the childcare front. So thanks, Megan and Nancy, for your continued efforts. We're getting there.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Yeah, is that database, is that a state database, or was that the
For the wait list?
Yeah.
So I will give you the PowerPoint slides. That is not a state database list. Our Rocky Mountain Early Childhood Council, so our Early Childhood Council coordinator volunteered to create the wait list for us because, well, you'll read the PowerPoint. It says, Aspen City Council requested this wait list information because we had thought that the Bridge Care software that is going to be implemented probably in the fall would provide that wait list data, but then Bridge Care, the company, was hijacked by UPK, and so they couldn't do that project for us, and we really wanted that information. We knew you wanted that information, and I mean, frankly, we've all needed this information for a long time and really wanted to know, like, the information that we have been collecting, how accurate is it? And it turns out it's pretty accurate. Hopefully that bridge care software that will be being used for UPK and for the programs, that will end up generating accurate waitlist information once that gets up and running.
Yeah, I've been frustrated, some narratives out there that there is no need, that there's no unmet need, and to see some good figures on that is, it's important for me and for the community. The state program, for preschool, I was thinking 11 hours, but 10 hours a week. Does that start this year? I thought it started this year in April.
It'll start in the fall.
In the fall, okay.
They started in April, Ward, just to answer your question, what they started in April was getting the programs basically into their system. And then the parents have to also apply for the system. And then they match, like parent A says, I want to go to program A. And both of those entities have to be in the UPK system, and then they get matched because of that request. So that was rolled out in April, and it's kind of a very slow and ongoing process. And then the funding starts, is it in September, Nance? Yes. Yeah, in September.
Okay. I'd like to put my money where my mouth is, and that's why we really, and the rest of our council felt that early childhood education was a place that we needed to put our money, and that there was a need, and we wanted to fill that need. But it was accessibility, and capacity, and the capacity part of it is something that takes a really long time to add more classrooms. So if we're adding classrooms for 70 at BG3, and we haven't even put a shovel in the ground, we're still looking at that. And that has been 2 or 3 years we've been talking about that. And I keep seeing these circular logics as what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Well, we don't want to fund building capacity because we don't have teachers or we don't have administrators that can run a program. We would love to be able to increase capacity, say Bill says in churches or other places, but that, the state requirements of what the spaces have to be, and has to be a long-time commitment for those spaces, and you have to get people that actually want to run the programs. So it's like you have to be building the capacity, the actual space, looking for that space, and work on faith that you're going to be able to find a way to create a financial incentive to the actual kiddo providers. And it bothers me that we have a 5-year sunset on this, that what happens in 5 years. I'm glad to hear that the rent capacity and those are going to help the providers, but and that tuition will eventually be going up. But if tuition goes up, does that mean that financial aid in the future is going to have to go up because it's not as accessible as it was previously?
Well, it is, we did raise financial aid.
I know, but
We're going to have to probably keep balancing that out.
right. And so the point I'm trying to make is that I think we need a long-term commitment, not just a 5-year commitment, not only for the, what do we call it, wage enhancement, backfilling of wages, whatever, that these providers could get a job working at Wendy's for more than they're getting paid without our assistance. So and I'm a firm believer that the first few years of life are the most important in the development of a child. So for us to be putting this money into this age group and into this program to build capacity and accessibility, I think there's no greater thing that we could do, no better use of our funds for early childhood education. And I'm probably biased because I've been married to a teacher for 42 years. But bedside reading is in brain development and everything else. So I would look, when I'm off of council, I hope that we still have this, this commitment that we're gonna be funding, childcare capacity, and the frustration that we had with the yellow brick, we had some providers that did not want to do 4 days a week. We wanted to increase capacity. We had some people that wanted to sell their businesses and get out of the early childhood education business. And increasing capacity means that you use 5 or 7 days a week for a classroom. We looked at ways of doing, trying to find somebody to do 3 days a week on a program that only wanted to do 4 days a week. But that was a frustration, and as John says, it takes a long time in government to get things done. And I'm happy to see that these things are progressing. I just want to see a real long-term commitment from city government to help fund early childhood education.
So do we.
Yeah, because, you increase tuition so that you don't have, and then that means that people can't afford it. So you push in one place and it bulges out somewhere else. So I just really am an advocate for continue funding on a permanent basis. And it does mean that we wind up putting the hand of government into the free market. But the free market doesn't provide wages that are adequate enough to provide the training to the children that we owe them. Let me see what else I have on my notes here.
Well, hold on, let me just comment on that. The aspiration is that UPK is the beginning, and that it will continue going, year by year to younger children. So that's,
Yeah, and we know
that's
that
the hope.
PK takes fewer resources as far as teachers are concerned than toddlers or.
My computer just died, but I don't think it's an issue.
Yeah, it's concerning that we don't have a mental health support at this point, and hopefully in June that we will be getting that.
Oh, there's a really solid plan for it. I just can't say who it is yet until we sign a contract with them.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm most appreciative of both of your efforts, and I know that you have different skill sets, programming and administrative, and so I'm really happy that Yellow Brick and Kids First is in your capable hands.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ward. I just have a couple of items. Thank you. First of all, thank you. We're in a better place now than we were, I could say, 6 months, a year ago, 2 years ago, probably even. We've done a lot to improve conditions, but can you just talk for a moment about our goal of stabilization? In your presentation, you talked a little bit about tuition increases, also scholarship opportunities, a lot of the programs that we are running currently and stuff. But again, outside of just improving and maybe putting a Band-Aid on it right now, how are we looking for our long-term plans of a little bit more stabilization? That is not including new capacity. I'm just talking about kind of what we've done recently and where we're at.
So one of the things that with the wage enhancement and also the Yellow Brick rent waiver, the requirements for the programs who are participating in those, they have to have a solid plan. So with the wage enhancement, they have to have a solid plan, and they're reporting quarterly to us. What is your plan? So how are you going to raise tuition, or how are you going to increase wages when the 5-year funding drops? So this is a sustainability, I would say, answer to that problem. So they have solid plans, or they're developing them, or if they can't develop them, then we're supporting them to develop them. And some of that is around the director trainings that we're providing. So we have someone from the Denver Early Childhood Council coming in, and they're doing like one-on-one financial coaching with the directors, and then other director trainings. So obviously in accounting and finance, because they need to be able to run a fiscally viable business with our support, but also those soft skills, the leadership skills. How to be a good leader, how to create a culture in which your staff wants to stick around, right? So those are sustainability measures. And then with the wage, or with the rent waiver, again, there's the reporting. How is the money that you're not spending on rent at the Yellow Brick going towards recruitment and retention of your staff? How are you spending that money so that your staff wants to stay on? So those are some of the sustainability measures, I would say. Other than that, I mean, Diane and Nancy, does anything pop into your mind?
We'll add one thing. As you all know, most programs are not charging what it actually costs to deliver the service. And so even though this council or a future council may choose, as Ward was alluding to extend that support in the future, it is a good thing that these programs are now looking at what the cost of service is, because there are people who could afford to pay the cost of service and are not. And because of the changes to the financial aid program, now those people in the middle who might be impacted negatively by this, they can get help. Thanks.
Yeah, and I mean, also, something that we've done for years is around quality improvement and coaching. I started at Kids First as a resource teacher, so I was a sub, and I applied for that position with a master's in education, knowing that, I might be overqualified for that job, but I had experience teaching in classrooms, and then I got the training in education to become a coach, and that early childhood education coaching, I think, is one of the key sustainable practices in helping teachers become skilled. And when you go into a classroom and you feel like your toolbox or your tool belt is full, and you have these tools that you've learned through coaching and professional development, then you're more satisfied with your job. You don't want to quit. You don't burn out as easily. You feel competent. You feel like you're doing a good job, and they are. I mean, when teachers make those commitments to quality improvement and education, they are happier with their jobs, they stay there longer, and those teachers in those programs are just higher quality.
So you feel good about the stabilization measures that we've put in place. We have to wait and see how they play out. For me, this runs along with our long-range planning and our budgeting as well. I want to know, the money outlays that we have scheduled as of right now, how they're going to play into our future, solvency, both for our capital improvements as well as our programs. So for me, that's why I bring that up. I want to know that we are working towards something that has longevity and sustainability.
Right. I mean, I'm not going to say someday Aspen is not going to need Kids First. I think, number one, our community is so lucky that we have Kids First. Yeah. Doesn't exist anywhere else. Other communities have tried to replicate it. Some of them have come up with some great programs. We're going to learn from them, see if we can implement some of those programs. But I think, because of just the unique truth of living here, I think Kids First is always going to need to be here to support child care programs. Hopefully we can support more and, add to that capacity.
Yeah. I wanted to ask a little bit, and maybe we don't need to go into this into any detail, but I just, for council members' benefit, new council members' benefit, the Burlingame Child Care Center is something that I've had questions around. I don't necessarily think it's the best location, therefore I question kind of the build and the magnitude of the build out there, just so you guys know. I don't know if you saw the last meeting. I hope you didn't. But we've allowed the vote to go forward. Skippy and I were both against against making those decisions at this time. It went to schematic with the support of 3 other council members. That's fine. It's queued up. If you believe in that project, then it's queued up in a good place. I personally still have questions about it. With that in mind, my question to you, and again, I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time on it right now, but Basalt recently had a couple of opportunities, or still does, but they hesitated for a moment. I don't think they were able to find a provider, perhaps, or whatever it was.
Are you talking about Stotts Mill?
Yeah, that's one. And there was another property that they were also looking at developing for childcare.
In Willits at the hub.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I touched on that in the presentation. They have designated a space there for childcare. SKICO they've chosen Deb Oger, or Michelle Oger, who is she runs Blue Lake and Little Blue. And it's designated for childcare. There's an $8 to $12 million build out for that. So I don't know what the timeline is for that. I don't know where they're going to get the funding for that. It's not in Pitkin County.
So, one, a regional planning effort from here to
Parachute. Well,
Parachutes?
it's all of Garfield County, Western Eagle, and Pitkin. That's what
Okay.
the Confluence Coalition is.
Okay, and so the reason I bring this up is in relationship to Burlingame and those plans for more capacity. Basalt, the Aspen School District has been talking about expansion in their campus as well and stuff like that. Anyway, I just want to make sure that we're all looking at this from a regional approach. Childcare is not something that just is within the boundaries of the city of Aspen. We have people that work in the city of Aspen or live in the city of Aspen or both from here to, and they need childcare as well. So for me, it's just one of those things that a regional approach, looking at the opportunities that are in Basalt, looking at opportunities at the school district, maybe there's others that can come online. I just hope that we're looking at that as we move forward with anything that we're trying to do when we talk about building new facilities. So again, I don't need a whole bunch of conversation around that now. I just want to make sure that, we're looking at this a little bit more valley-wide and even beyond than just city of Aspen, city limits, and our singular opportunities. I have some other questions, but that'll come back as we get into budget season this year and stuff, so nothing at this time. Any other follow-ups from any council members?
No, I think the only thing is piggybacking on what Tori just said is, let's see if there's a way to incentivize the private sector to do some of the heavy lifting for us. I know it's a big ask, but I think as we saw with JCC and CMC to a certain extent, there might be opportunities to do that. And the private sector could include nonprofits and likely does.
Thank you. Any other questions for us?
I don't think so. Thank you. I appreciate all of your time. Thank you so much.
Yeah. You just wanted a seat by a window, huh? I get it.
Absolutely.
You bet. All right, thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
That concludes our agenda for our work session this evening. Diane, do you have any final words that you need to share with us?
I do not, thank you.
All right. With that, we say thank you to GrassRoots as always. We are back tomorrow at 5 p.m. for a regularly scheduled meeting, which means we take citizen comments and petitions at the beginning of our meeting. Please join us here at City Hall if you like. Have a great evening.